feel like you guys are doing in that department?
I think we've been doing quite well. I mean, last game wasn't a passing game, but season long, I feel like the majority of our pressures have been for man rush, and we're doing a good job disguising coverages, and that's to me that's what it's all about. I mean, that's when you're really playing well, is when you can get the sacks and the pressures without bringing extra people.
Fourth row left, Jacob Bench, the Lantern.
Yeah, hey Jim, we were talking with Ryan rather, just a few minutes ago, just about making improvements these next two games because of the big game here at the end of the month against Michigan. Just playing Indiana, playing against Maryland, how important is it maybe tune up or apply the concepts you want come that game November 26th?
Everything, and I just keep reiterating it to the team or anyone who wants to listen. Everything is about habits, that become a lifestyle. So we want to stop every team on every possession of every game. I do not believe that you can, somehow call it out of existence if you haven't done it over and over again when the time comes. So we don't talk really about so much. I mean, we have to talk about who we're playing in terms of game plan, but the way we play has got to be an everyday, every game thing, where you expect to stop them, you compete to stop them on that series, because when the time comes that you need it, that's all you'll know.
Third row left, Dan Hope, 11 Warriors.
Jim, you gave up 9 third down conversions against Northwestern. 4 of them were on quarterback runs. Just how do you evaluate the third down defense overall? And then, with the quarterback run, was that maybe something that caught you guys off guard, or is something you guys need to execute better on?
I think our third downs have been good, throughout the year. Not pleased last game. The quarterback run is always a difficult component, in that short yardage life, and I thought we had been doing well with it, but we didn't have a good game with the quarterback run, and then we did not have a good game on third down with the transition into the downfield passing. I've had some experience with this when I was at Duke with playing option teams. Let's face it, basically that's what last game turned into. It was like option football. So when your DBs spend 80% of the game where you're telling them don't worry about covering the receiver, get off and have your vision back to what's going inside because they're not throwing the ball. And then all of a sudden, okay, now this is 3rd and 8. They got to throw the ball, and you need to tighten up that transition. It's a difficult transition, and one that I did not do a good enough job preparing them for. So I think that's the couple that they made on longer yardages. I attribute to that transition, and I got to do a better job of coaching that. Best thing about it is we were 4 for 4 on 4th down, which is like 4 turnovers. And in that kind of game, that's what wins you the game. But we certainly need to do a lot better on 3rd down.
For the second row left, Nathan Baird, Cleveland.com.
Maybe kind of an extension of that, but because this game was from a circumstances standpoint was so bizarre, how different was what you guys saw from Northwestern compared to what you were planning to see? And then, without giving up trade secrets, can you kind of explain how then that adjustment gets communicated down through the line, and how you felt like that went?
Yeah, I thought the adjustments went well. It was very different. They had components of what they did, but when it went to strictly that kind of game, like I said, it becomes like option football. And then, there are all kinds of gaps created by different formations, and you're really going into a new world that we hadn't been into yet in that kind of game. So, I thought we adjusted well. You can give up some big plays off of that stuff, because you're like one guy out of place and you give up a big play. And So I thought we hung in there, communicated down, from me to the field, the adjustments, got it done. 7 points. I didn't like the amount of rushing yards we gave up or the third downs that kind of extended some drives. But what we did on fourth down and 7 points, pretty damn good. So you give the guys credit for that.
Sorry about that, Coach.
That's all right.
Fourth row middle, Pat Murphy, 24/7 Sports.
Yeah, Jim, we talked a lot early on about 3 linebackers and adjusting to the Big Ten. How do you feel like this defense has adjusted under you to what you were doing in the last few years to Big Ten football? And I imagine you didn't see a lot of weather like that down south as you might hear. How has that all been for you? How have you evaluated the way you've changed?
Good. I think we've adjusted the system to be able to handle some things that you get in the Big Ten. Never good enough. There's always room for growth. We're working on it. Taking from every opportunity we get to get better. But I think it's gone smoothly so far.
Right next door, Tony Girdman, Buckeye Huddle.
Okay. Jim,
Hey, Tony.
have you ever coached?
How are you?
I'm doing fantastic,
Good.
thank you. Hope you're enjoying your coffee. Have you ever experienced anything like that weather?
Yes. When I was at Duke, we played Boston College. Somebody look it up in a hurricane, and we won 9-7. Yeah.
Did you?
I mean, on you, Coach Day wasn't there, so it might have been like 16, 17.
Ryan said you guys, or he at least went and watched a bunch of NFL games. Did you go back and watch that game to see how you handled it, or how do you prepare for that?
No, I didn't go back and watch it. I know what to do. You can't really prepare for it. You just got to hunker down and fight. There's just, and really, you got to do what you need to do to win the game. That's the bottom line to me. Coach Day has done that well, obviously before me, and continues to do it. But and I think now we're working well together. That's the situation. You got to do what you got to do to win the game. Forget about everything else. I don't like the rushing stats. I don't like the third downs. But we gave up 7 points and we won the game. So you know what I mean? I gotta remember that myself.
2015, by the way.
15. Okay. All right. 15.
Sorry about that, Tony.
There you go.
Back row, Jeremy Birmingham, Rivals.
Jim, I know personnel decisions as far as switching out guys or, in different positions aren't necessarily what you're focused on, but in a game like that you knew was going to be sort of turning into an option football game, it seemed like you'd want to have the more physical corners out there. Jordan Hancock didn't play. Jair Brown got in a lot earlier than I think people expected. Was Jordan just not ready to go, or was it a situation where you just felt like he wasn't going to?
Yeah, the elements, right? And by the way, Jair did a good job, right? He really sat on some routes when they did start throwing the ball at the end and did a really nice job. Knocked one away, I know. Yeah, Jordan, you got to be careful. The field's a mess. This guy's fighting his way and competing his way off of a significant injury. So you don't want to put him in, unless you have to, really put him in that situation where he might re-injure it.
Fourth row right, Cameron Teague Robinson, The Athletic.
Jim, kind of obvious, also you said earlier about third downs. When a team like Northwestern, they went, I think, nearly a quarter and a half without throwing a pass. How do you prepare kids for that when they don't throw and then it's 3rd and 8? It's not something. You can't just flip a switch and be like, okay, let's go. How do you prepare them for that?
Yeah, I really you only prepare them through experience, and it's just a matter of I don't know, the sheep recognizing the voice of the shepherd, right? It's like, okay, when I call this certain thing now, I'm asking you to change your mindset. You know what I mean? The call, not calling the same call. I don't believe in that. Oh, I call this call and I call it again, but it's 3rd and 8 here. This time it's 1st and 10 and they're running the ball, but you're using the same call and you're expecting the young man to make the change in his mind. Oh, situation's different. I make different calls. So now I just, it's just experience, just getting to say, okay, I made this call because I really want you to focus on they're going to throw the ball, and for them to be able to click over like that into that based on the call, that's on me. I just got to do a better job of preparing them for that, but we get to learn through experience, which is good.
Right next door, Spencer Holbrook, Letterman Row.
Jim, I think we talked to you at the end of the spring, and you said that you guys were ahead of schedule. And we talked to you again in training camp, ahead of schedule, September, ahead of schedule. How do you feel second week of November with the big challenge coming at the end of the year about where you guys are right now?
Yeah. I mean, I'd still say we're ahead of schedule. I mean, we have not, like I've told you before, we've practiced a lot of things that we haven't used. But it's so hard to say because at the Ohio State, the expectations are so high, right? So, I mean, what really is ahead of schedule? I would say for anywhere else in a first-year defense, you'd say you're way ahead of schedule. For Ohio State, you're just saying, we're doing our job. That's what I would say. Yeah, so we're on schedule because we're doing what we're supposed to do. You can't. This is what we're supposed to do as a defense at Ohio State. So we're on schedule.
Seems like the step from being where you guys were in March to now to get to the number 6 defense in the country took a lot of work. How much more work does it take to go from number 6 to number 1 now that you've went from number whatever you were last year to number 6?
Same work. I think maybe the average fan doesn't understand, like, oh, okay, did I joke before? Like, okay, let me call that defense that gets a turnover. Okay, what defense was that again that produces a turnover? Or it's really the same work, the same habits. It's kind of boring, but it's like the same habits, the same ideals, the same sayings back and forth between me and the players, and you're just trying to get better every day, and don't talk about how far you've come or how much farther we have to go. None of that. Let's just get better today.
Second row right, Bill Landis, Rivals.
Jim, when you're playing an offense that will throw 6-7 offensive linemen, a couple 300-pound tight ends, and create all those different gaps, how do you determine when you're going to stay in your base and try to defend that way, or bring on those bigger packages like we saw with 4 linebackers?
Yeah, most of the time you'll go to the bigger packages. You try to mix in staying in the base people because you have more options out of the base, right? So you're trying to figure out, okay, are they really just going to keep doing the same stuff, or do they have something else out of it? So you mix in base every now and then to make them feel like they don't have you lined up. That you might do something different. That they just can't say, oh, okay, they're doing this, we're doing this, they're doing that. So you mix it up.
Right next door, Doug Lane-Maurice, Cleveland.com.
Jim, talking about the third downs and the fourth downs, I guess their first drive of the second half, they had a 3rd and 1. Tommy dives over the pile, stops it, has to come out because his helmet comes off. 4th and 1. You guys stop it. Looked like Tehran was really strong at the point of attack up the middle. Just what did you think of the execution to get that stop at that point in the game? And just how are you up in the box emotionally reacting when your defense gets a stop like that?
I was pleased. I mean, again, that's what we're supposed to do. One of our sayings is, I say give us an inch, they say we'll defend it. I mean, that's what we're supposed to do. So there's zero emotional reaction to me up in the box, zero, because it's just on to the next series. Okay, what did we just do there? And it worked. What might they do next time it comes up? If they know I'm doing this, what are they going to do to that? So it's all the permutations in my head. So there's really no time for celebration, but I want our defense to expect to win those situations.
And when you have that moment, I asked Tommy after the game, like just the rules, he has to come out on that 4th down, and then he's such an important part of this defense. You guys get the stop without him on the field.
Yeah, you don't blink. Yeah. you don't blink. Again, that's the reaction of the leader has a big effect on the team. So I don't blink. I just, okay, next guy in, make the call, play, expect success.
Second row left, Stephen Means, Cleveland.com.
Following up on what Bill was asking a little bit, you were, I think earlier this year, just talking about how you really would rather never come out of that base. You just kind of explained a little bit why. But whether it was early in the season when you've had some 3 linebacker looks, or you had a 4 linebacker look, or Michigan made you do some other things. Do you come into the week already planning on we might have to pull this out, or is it just something like in the moment because you've already?
No, yeah, you gotta practice it. You have to work on it, and yeah, you like to have some change ups off of it too. So you're not just, like I said, doing the same thing when that personnel group is in there. But it's definitely something you got to practice, and then it becomes how much do I need to use it based on what kind of success they're having against the base, because you'd rather stay in base because the base gives you more options.
Deep left, Justin Holbrook, WCMH.
Indiana had 3 quarterbacks last week. They're going back to Connor this week. How do you prepare for a team that is supposed to have one quarterback going in? He had an injury. They might throw something else at you. How do you prepare with what they do normally with the quarterback that they might give you?
They're pretty similar, and one guy may run around a little bit more, but I think your preparation is the same, unless there's really a drastic change in what they do from one quarterback to the next. You try to keep it as similar as possible between the two different guys.
Front row right, Austin Ward, Rivals, 97.1.
Jim, I know with the volume of snaps that your defense had to play on Saturday, that some rotation up front is going to be required. Part of Larry's philosophy has always been to be fresh in the fourth quarter. So if that's the case and JT plays 11 out of 23 snaps and Zach plays 12, are you comfortable with that amount? It seems like pretty clearly those are your 2 best linemen at this point.
Yeah, I'm comfortable with whatever Coach Johnson does, right? I mean, he's a fantastic coach, so I think he manages his players accordingly. But I know sometimes we get caught up in packaging, right? Like I think they had all in the 50s, eventually at the end. But sometimes we get caught up in packaging and different calls that I make that put certain people in the game. Also, it's like it's a 4-quarter thing, yes, but it's also a series-to-series thing. It's also in the middle of series thing, So it's a way that he keeps the guys fresh and moving and all involved. So I don't, it's been successful. So definitely go with how he calls it.
Right next door, Tim May, Letterman Row.
Teron Vincent, in a nutshell, has he been a pleasant surprise? Has he been a major surprise, especially the way he's played recently, et cetera? Where would you? Because obviously you had no preconceived notion on him when you showed up and stuff.
Right.
He was a 5-star recruit or high 4-star. Is he playing to that level now? I mean, what are you seeing from him?
He's playing to that level. I didn't even know his level. I mean, that like that 4-star and 5-star stuff, coming in or looking at it. But he has been absolutely consistent since I've been here. And, we joke all the time, he and I, about the amount of double teams he has to take on. You know what I mean? It's not very sexy, but he does that work. And he's been incredibly consistent with it, and really a bonus, for me to have inside, because then he'll be, he can do that. I don't care who you are. Nobody really likes that, but he can do that. But then when we move him, he's athletic enough to make plays, both, yeah.
And one other thing, I kind of asked you about this off and on through the year, but does it do any good to complain about holding? Have you found that, there's a great photo of JT Tuimoloau standing up a tackle on Saturday, and he's reaching with his left arm. You remember the play. But clearly the right tackle's got his jersey and pulling down. JT seems to have had to run a gauntlet, maybe others don't this year, just to make plays. But have you found, does it do any good to complain to higher ups about that kind of situation?
No, does no good to complain, and I stopped complaining a long time ago, probably in my early 30s. You know, really, yeah, you got to fight. You got to fight through it. You know, and it's JT. I think gets it more because he's so athletic, and you know, linemen get out of control. You could probably call it on him every other play. You know, guys that are blocking him, but unfortunately, it's part of the game. But you know, it's an offensive world, so you know, defensive guys kind of hobble along, fighting against the rules and uphill the whole way, uphill both ways, like my dad said when he went to school. Yeah, in bad weather, uphill both ways, and they're holding you and double teaming you, high-lowing you. But no, don't complain. Don't use it as an excuse. Don't talk about it with the players. You know. Now, when they get one, I celebrate it. You know, hey, you drew a holding call. You know, everybody, you know, and that's good. But otherwise, we don't talk about it. It becomes part of the game, and you got to fight through it.
Got time for two more questions. Front row, Joey Kaufman, Columbus Dispatch.
Jim, to revisit the quarterback runs at Northwestern, defending those plays, is there any commonality to what you faced earlier in the year with Toledo and trying to defend a quarterback who can move, and what goes into maybe?
Yeah, I think there's commonalities. Yeah, you know, there's anytime you face the quarterback run, there's definitely commonalities and things that you can learn from it. And it's everywhere in football, and now even in the NFL, you know, they see it. So, yeah, there are principles. There are things you can learn. There are things you can point out, and the mistakes that you made, and why you made them, and how we need to do it better, and other, you know. And then there are certain plays where I can point out to the players and say, look, we have this call. I should have made that call. You know what I mean? When you know, this one is, you know, not great against quarterback run. This one is much better. I should have made the other call. You know, I can take responsibility for that too.
How would you assess your comfort level with defending a mobile quarterback at this stage of the season?
Yeah, I mean, good. You know, I mean, I think we have, at least I should say, we have all the right tools in place. We just need better execution. But I think the guys understand it.
Three final questions. Bill Rabinowitz, Columbus Dispatch.
Jim, obviously you, because of the conditions, you went to 4 linebackers at times. But just generally speaking, how confident are you in not just Tommy and Steele, but in Cody, but guys like Taraji got a snap and EA and just the depth there?
I think that depth has grown. You know, the more we've been able to get Cody in 3 linebacker situation, it's just more opportunities for me to see him in the game, and then, you know, feel okay. If he goes in the 2 linebacker situation, he's going to be good. So it's good. It's a, you know, and NEA, I want to start to bring him along, you know, in the 2 linebacker situation. So it's not just Tommy and Steele, but it could be Cody and EA. And I think the more opportunities they get to be in the game in other positions, it's still the game. And you know, you're talking about our season on the line, and it's 7. You know what I mean? These are like critical points. I don't care who you're playing. And to get those guys in there and see them perform is a good thing for me in terms of confidence down the road.
How blatant was that hold on Cody Simon on the touchdown run?
No comment.
Coach, thank you very much.
Thank you, Jim. Appreciate you.